Justice Thomas, anything further? Justice Alito?
Let me come back to the point that Justice Jackson was just making. Typically, if a property owner doesn't pay real estate taxes, the jurisdiction will send a notice and say you didn't pay your taxes, and maybe they'll send several, and they'll warn, if you don't pay your taxes, we can foreclose on your property and sell it at a tax sale. Now, before any of that occurs, I still don't understand why the taxpayer cannot, a taxpayer who's in a situation like your client, and again, assuming there was proper notice here, take steps to prevent a tax sale from taking place. If you've got $190,000 of equity in a house and you owe $2,000 in taxes, can you not get a loan using your equity as collateral?
It is difficult to do that. There is off-ramps that individuals can try to do. In fact, Mr. Pung tried to do that in this case at numerous parts with interactions with the tribunal, with the tax tribunal, and things of that nature. To answer your question, is there are steps they can take, but if they cross that Rubicon, if the government takes that property.
Yeah, but before the government takes the property, there are steps that can be taken.
But if those steps aren't taken for whatever reason.
Well, if the taxpayer doesn't take them for whatever reason the taxpayer has, then perhaps one shouldn't feel so sorry for the taxpayer when the tax sale occurs. There are a lot of outfits that will buy houses sight unseen for cash.
I guess
Isn't that another option?
I don't think that's another option because, if Mr. Pung didn't want to leave his home, the ability, this is the home that he wanted his nephew's son and his family to be able to have and retain. The idea that we vacate from the family home because of the tax that's being challenged in this aspect strikes me as being kind of counterbalance to the equity, that we shouldn't be forced to sell something that we shouldn't necessarily.
Well, and that's another argument about whether monetary compensation is always sufficient to constitute just compensation when there's an emotional attachment to a house, which is a serious thing. But that's not the issue here.
Well, but the issue is here ultimately is that there is a piece of property that has been uncontested by the government to be worth, approximately $200,000. Once the government has decided that it's going to take more property than what the actual value of the debt actually is, that's what triggers the takings obligation. And if it's not a takings obligation, of course, we've also argued it's an excessive fine.
What sorts of personal property do you think the government has to go after first before it goes after the house?
Well, in this case, with a tax debt of about $2,200, it could have been the Peloton bike that was in the house.
You think a Peloton bike today is worth $2,000?
Well,
if you go on Facebook Marketplace and you try to sell a Peloton bike today for $2,000, I don't think you're going to be very successful. How are they going to know that he has a Peloton bike?
Traditionally, joking aside, there are a lot of different options. There are bank accounts, there's personal property, the vehicle. There's lots of.
All right, they're vehicles and bank accounts. Maybe they can find out about that. Other personal property, how are they going to know what he has? They have a right to go in the house and inspect everything and see whether there's a valuable, gigantic TV that might be sold.
When the government is acting in a debt collector capacity, this is what, and when I'm not paid a debt, that's the obligation I have. When I'm collecting on a debt from someone that hasn't paid, the government, it's no different.
If we start to set out all sorts of rules for these tax sales to make them fair, how many years and how many cases do you think it's going to take to flesh out all of these details without any historical support for the procedures that you seem to think are required?
We think that the government has excellent models that are already in place that they could utilize. For example, Michigan's mortgage foreclosure process is well established over 100 years. It's already a known market. It's already a known process. They could adopt that on its own and would have the back-end protections that are necessary so that fair market value is reached in all circumstances, whether it's an auction or a post-auction shortcome.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.